Hey guys, it's Tahira, and today I'm doing a 5-star predictions vlog, which I've never done before, but I've seen people do it, where basically you read a few books that you think are gonna be 5 stars and then you end up seeing if they're actually end up being 5 stars. For me, I rarely give a book 5 stars. I feel like my rate of 5 stars has drastically lowered over the past couple of years, so I'm really interested to see if I end up giving these books a 5-star. I feel like if I get even one 5-star out of this, that would be a huge win for me, just because I don't give them out as often anymore. But we have a potential TBR. We have a few books that are on my radar. I don't have a set one. I'm gonna be mood reading, so I have like a list of books that I think are gonna be like really high ratings for me, but I'll just end up choosing like what I feel like reading in the moment. And all of the books that I am thinking of or like are on my potential list are all fantasy books. So this vlog is probably going to take a little bit just because fantasy books tend to be longer and just take a little like more time to read than just a quick contemporary romance. But first of all, the first book that is going to be on this for sure, because I've already started it, is the first book for this video, and that is Blood Over Bright Haven by M.L. Wang. The reason this is a 5-star prediction is because there was a TikTok that I posted like a while ago that I was asking for people's most recent 5-star reads, just because I hadn't had a 5-star in a while, so I just wanted to see what people were giving 5 stars during that time. And one of the most common answers is Blood Over Bright Haven, and I've just heard nothing but amazing things about this book, and I'm already about 72 pages in and I'm already really enjoying this. This book follows this girl named Sayona, and she lives in the city that is powered by magic, by people that are siphon, and it's a really interesting magic system. And in this world, only the men are really allowed to do magic and be in one of the high mages. So Sayona makes it her mission to be one of the first woman to be a high mage. So the book starts off with her taking the qualifying exam for it, and then she ends up passing it and ends up becoming a high mage. But then because she is a woman and people kind of mock her, the other men in her group are not really very kind to her. They give her a like janitor at the university that she works at as her assistant. Basically, being a high mage is kind of like being a scientist. They kind of get their own labs, they get lab assistants, they get basically they do research just like a person would at a university. So that's where the janitor part comes in, where the janitor ends up being her lab assistant because the men kind of make fun of her and don't give her like an actual qualified person to be her lab assistant. So working with the janitor, she realizes that the janitor has a much bigger past, was not always a janitor, and I think they kind of work together to uncover some things about the world and the magic of their system. So yeah, that's the basic like synopsis of what's going on. I'm not very far in, like I said, but we're kind of getting to like the main plot of the book, and I really love any book that's set in like anything academic related. I love that. The magic system of this world is really interesting, and I really liked the way that it was explained while the people were taking the test to try to be a high mage. And it was really interesting because the magic system and like the way they cast spells was almost like code. Like they had this basically they have this like machine, I don't know if I can find it, which is basically like a typewriter that has like different keys for different spell marks, different runes, I guess. And the way they cast spells is almost exactly like how you write code. They have conditions, like if this condition is met, then do this. And they basically have action spells and then sub spells. So it was very much like giving code to me. And that particularly stood out to me because I literally am a software engineer as my job. So coding is like my job. So yeah, I just thought that was really interesting, and I've never really seen that before. So I'm really excited to get into this one and read more into it. I have really high hopes for this one. Other potential books on the docket are The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. This is a really popular fantasy book, and I am really excited to read this. My sister read this recently and she really liked it, and I've just heard nothing but good things about like this trilogy in general. Also, R.F. Kuang is coming to BookCon in April, which I am going to New York for that, which is really exciting. So I do want to try to get to this trilogy before then, and it's already February, which means I only have a couple months, so I probably should start on this too. Then we have another really popular fantasy book that I've heard so much about, and that is The Will of the Many by James Islington. This one is also a really chunky book, so a lot of really like biggish books on this. But I think this one is also like set in an academic setting, I believe, which I love. So yeah, I think this one is probably going to be a priority as well because I've just heard so many amazing things about it, and I feel like I've been hearing it a little bit more recently because the sequel came out kind of recently. But yeah, I've heard amazing things about this as well. And then the last book that I am considering, which is such a small book now that I'm seeing it, and the text is kind of big, and that is The Wolf King by Lauren Pal Freeman. And this one is also a really hyped romantasy book that came out last year, and I was hearing so many amazing things about it. Literally every person that was reading it was giving like 4 and 5 stars. So this is less a 5-star prediction and more of like maybe a 4-star, high 4-star prediction, but who knows, maybe it could surprise me. I was just seeing so many amazing reviews about this one as well. So yeah, this one might be actually a good contender because it is really, it's so small, like compared to The Will of the Many, and the book I'm reading right now is just so tiny and the text is huge. So it could be a good contender because I'll go through it quicker. But yeah, The Will of the Many, The Wolf King, The Poppy War, and then my current read, Blood Over Bright Haven, is the potential TBR for this. I could go back and go through my TBR and find other books that I think I would give 5 stars. I think these are the books that I am prioritizing, and these are all books for my physical TBR. I only want to pick books for my physical TBR because I'm just trying to get through it. There's just too many books on there right now. So yeah, anyways, that is all I have to say right now. This is already a really long intro, but I will come back to you when I am further into Blood Over Bright Haven. As you saw, I was watching Larry Reads on stream. She's been starting to stream like 2 times a week, and I feel like it's really good for carving some time out reading with other people online. I feel like it makes me more productive and it makes me want to read. So over that stream, I read about 50 pages, and I've gotten quite a bit into this book because this book is honestly pretty short for a fantasy book. It is about like just over 400 pages. And I'm not actually sure if this is a duology or like a series or if it's just a standalone. Let me check. Okay, Goodreads shows that it doesn't seem to show anything, so I'm assuming this is just a standalone, which I don't read a lot of. I've rarely read a standalone fantasy, and with this being so short, I'm really interested to see how it goes. I will say it's pretty slow so far. There's not a lot of action going on, but I feel like this is the type of story that's like not meant to be really action-packed. Like I kind of told you about the plot earlier, we have Siona, who is now learning to be like a high mage, and she is put on this really important project, and she has to come up with a plan for something, and then the other high mages are also coming up with a plan, and whoever's plan is best is what gets chosen to be enacted. But so obviously she wants to be the best. She's the first woman. She really wants to prove herself. And also because her lab assistant is her janitor, he obviously has a lot of catching up to do. He doesn't really know much about magic or like the stuff that she's been researching or learning. So there's a lot of this book is about her catching him up. And I feel like that is kind of the way that the author is doing world building, which I can feel a little bit info dumpy at times, just because they're having these long conversations where she's explaining things to him that he doesn't know, and he's kind of just listening and following along and learning how to practice magic on his own. So yeah, a lot of the book has been just them talking and her learning stuff and her trying to figure out like how to do this specific thing that she's been put out to do. Basically, the project is that they live in this city that's been surrounded by this energy barrier around them that protects them from the outside. And the outside, there's like this thing called the blight, which is like this curse or some disease. I don't really know. I'm not really sure. But since the population of the city is growing, they want to expand the barrier, and the barrier uses energy from like other realms to power itself. So basically her project is that she has to find a way to get all massive power enough that will push the barrier and expand it out and keep it sustained. So definitely a big project. So she's really trying to hone in on this. She only has like 11 weeks or something to do this. So once we kind of got to that, I thought the rest of the book would be them trying to build towards this 11-week deadline, but we're actually pretty close. We're only like a week away now from this deadline, so I'm sure something's more gonna happen beyond that. I am really used to more action-packed books just because a lot of the fantasy romance that's been coming out recently has been really action-packed. I feel like obviously with social media and everything, everyone's attention spans is going down. So in order to keep people engaged, you have to keep things quick and fast-paced. Although this isn't a fantasy romance, this is definitely more of a fantasy book, but I'm actually really enjoying the slow-paced, and I feel like I'm really interested. Like, even though sometimes it can feel a little info-dumpy where they're just having these conversations, to me, it's really interested. I'm really fascinated by the magic system and the world, and it's like almost like when you're inching towards figuring out something, it's like that anticipation builds, and I feel like that's already kind of building for me. Her lab assistant, who used to be the janitor, is also from this group of people called the Quen, who are kind of like the working class people of this city, and they're kind of seen as inferior to everyone else, and their history has been kind of rewritten by the majority people that are like consider themselves superior. So now she's learning things about the Quen people that she didn't know, things that were hidden from her like studies, and things that are usually just kind of pushed down in order to show the Quen as like kind of weak people and not as educated or strong or just as intelligent as everyone else. So yeah, there's definitely more of an uncovering of things that were hidden, and again, that anticipation of building towards something that there's going to be some sort of discovery, and I'm really interested to see what that ends up being. But yeah, this update is already really long, only 165 pages in, so still have quite a ways to go, about 250 pages. But yeah, so far I'm really liking this, and I hope it continues on. Don't mind how I look. It is morning. Like, yeah, I didn't just wake up, but it is like morning, so it's the beginning of the day. I'm still kind of waking up. But I kind of wanted to update because I got to page 258 last night, and I have been really enjoying this book. I like literally was in bed and I was reading this book for about like 2 to 3 hours, which I feel like it's been so long since I've sat down and had like a big chunk of time to read like that. Like, not that I haven't had the time, it's just that I usually either get distracted or just am not in the mood to be reading that long. But this book, honestly, even though it's not super action-packed, or I wouldn't say it's super fast-paced, I was still gripped by the story. And like I said last time, we were kind of starting to build towards revealing certain things because there's almost a mystery that was coming up about what is really going on with the magic and the system and everything. So we were finally getting some of the reveals, and we got some pretty major reveals, which were, I feel like to the other people may not be super surprising, but for me, I'm not one to really I wasn't really hard at theorizing in this book, so it did catch me off guard, and I thought it was pretty good. There was one part that was kind of a little bit predictable, but I don't know if I can talk about it because it's gonna be spoilers, and I'm trying to keep this as spoiler free as possible. Basically, it's about like a person not really being who we thought they were, and I kind of caught that from the beginning. Like, we were kind of introduced to this character, and immediately right off the bat I was like, something's gonna come up with this, and this person's not really who they say they are, how they're being portrayed in the beginning of the book. So that ended up being correct, and I don't know if it was meant to be a reveal, but to me that was not surprising at all. So yeah, that was definitely something that was super predictable for me, at least. But I'm really hoping to finish this book today. I still have 150 pages left, so I still have quite a bit to go. A big chunk, so I'm interested to see what else we find out and how the story wraps up, especially because apparently, like, maybe there's a sequel, I don't know, that's coming, but from what I saw, it's only a standalone. And like I've said before, I haven't read a lot of standalones at all, if any, and I feel like it's a little harder to do fantasy in a standalone just because there's so much world, so much. If you have magic, you have to explain so much, there's just so much foundation you have to build before you can really get into the plot and the nitty-gritty of it, and it's just way harder to do in a one singular book, especially that's only 400 pages. So yeah, I'm definitely interested to see how it ends. Other than that, I just wanted to update because I'm having a really great time with this book. I think right now I'm sitting at about a 4 to 4.5 star rating, so really, really solid. I did have like 5 star kind of feelings throughout the book, but I don't know if it's gonna end up being 5 stars. But I'm not gonna think about it too much. I'll read the rest of the book, see how it ends, and then talk about my thoughts. Probably at the end. I don't know if I would have anything before then that like really catches me enough to like want to talk about it, but if not, I will see you at the end of Blood Over Bright Haven. Blood Over Bright Haven was such a crazy book. Oh my god. I finished it last night and I was so tired, but I was like pushing through because I really wanted to finish it, and the ending ended up being so crazy. I ended up settling with a 4.5 star rating for Blood Over Bright Haven, and there were times like in the book where I was feeling that it could be a 5 star, but I think in the end I just didn't get that like total 5 star feeling that I want to get with my 5 star reads. So I ended up ending up settling on a 4.5, which is still an amazing rating, especially for me because I've been really critical over the past couple of years. But yeah, it was crazy. I do think that it is slower paced, so if you're looking for a super like action-packed, fast-paced fantasy, I would not recommend this book, but it's still really, really good. I did notice that a lot of the book is focused on dialogue, so there's a lot of conversations between people, between our main character and several other people, whether it's with her assistant Tamil, if it's with her mentor, or just the people around her. A lot of the book is just conversations, and that's kind of how you learn different things, how certain things are revealed. And although like not everyone might like I'm sorry, am I having a stroke? Although I think that not everyone would enjoy a story like that, I personally, like, although even I think sometimes I wouldn't enjoy a story like that, I just was really fascinated by the world and the magic and what we were finding out and what we were building towards, that I was just really interested in all the conversations that she was having and everything that was happening. And yeah, I don't know. I feel like I need spoilers to talk about the ending, so I'm gonna put a spoiler tag, I guess, for major spoilers for Blood Over Bright Haven. So if you haven't read it and you don't want to know more, then I would skip, but otherwise I will be talking about spoilers. But this book did something that not a lot of books have the courage to do, I feel like, and it's something that I've barely seen, and that is killing off our main character, which I actually really enjoyed that the book went there, that it took the guts to kill off the main character towards the end. And I feel like, yeah, I know like happily ever after, like most books want a happily ever after, but this book, like, although the ending was hopeful in a lot of ways, it was devastating. It was tragic. There was a lot going on towards the end. I will say one of the major reasons why I felt like it didn't want to give it a 5 star and didn't get that 5 star feeling is because the pacing felt a little off towards the end. I feel like majority of the book is very slow. It's more like she's in her lab finding out things, she's at the university, but at the end there's like just a bunch of stuff that happens in a quite short period of time. So I feel like we spent a little bit more time with some of the things that happened in the end, and maybe shortened a little bit of the stuff that was happening in the first part of the book, if that makes sense. But yeah, I just really, really liked some of the conversations. I really enjoyed that our main character was morally gray. I feel like there was a lot of conversations about oppression and what it means to grow up in a world where you are a underdog, basically, because we both have Siona's perspective, who is a female, and in this world females are really not seen as useful. They are kind of put into homemaking roles, and Siona, like I said, she's the first woman who's allowed to be a high mage in this world. She's battling all these expectations of her, and she's going against the grain in a lot of ways, but then we have her assistant who's oppressed in his own way. Like, even though he's a man, he's part of the Quen people who have been seen as inferior for the longest time. They've had quite a bit of tragedy befall them, and there's just a lot of going on. So there's a lot of conversations about how Siona, even though she is oppressed, she can still be in a position to be oppressive as well. And I just really liked all the conversations surrounding that. There was also a lot of conversations about religion and using religion as a justification. basically a lot of like philosophical discussions almost about morality and what it means to be a good person. And honestly, I could see this being a book that I would reread in the future. And overall, I thought this book was absolutely fantastic and I loved it, and I will be thinking about it for a long time. But after Blood Over Bright Haven, this morning I decided to pick up The Wolf King by Lauren Paul Freeman. I took the cover off. But this book is actually so small. I think I also showed this in the beginning clip, but the pages themselves are like really, really skinny, and the text is pretty big. So honestly, I'm flying through it. Like, I've only read about 40-ish minutes of this and I'm already 54 pages in. So reading really, really quickly. It's super fast paced so far. So this book is about this girl named Aurora who is a princess, and she is betrothed to this man, and she is to be wed to him like the next day from like when we start off in the book. And before that can happen, she gets whisked away by this alpha wolf and taken away, and stuff happens after that. I'm not sure, that's all I know. Even though we're already 54 pages in, we've already gotten to the point where she's whisked away by the alpha wolf or whatever. She's being whisked away from the kingdom castle or whatever. So like I said, really, really fast paced, and so far I'm really enjoying it. I really want to love this book because me and fantasy romance have been like, I really love fantasy romance as a genre, but I feel like so many books are coming out now that feel the same plot-wise, character-wise, love interest-wise. I feel like every love interest is honestly blending together for me at this point, because they all are like these big, buff, tall men that are super muscular. Obviously, they're going to be described as hot. And they also have some of the same traits, like they're all broody. So yeah, like I've just been struggling with finding books that are a little bit more unique, especially because this genre has really, really been exploding the past couple years. But this one I have really high hopes for, because everyone that I've seen has been giving it like 5 stars or 4, like majority 5 stars. So yeah, I've just heard it's really, really fun, and it's overall really easy to get into, which is also what I experienced. It's just so fast paced. You jump right into the action from the get-go, so you just ease into the world. It's not a lot. The writing is like, it's not too complicated, it's pretty simple, which makes it faster to read, which I'm actually enjoying, because I feel like I need like a fast-paced read, especially because after the a little bit of a slower pace of Blood Over Bright Haven. Even though I love that book, like, you know, you can just mix up sometimes. But yeah, I'm really, really excited. I also got this book from Palm Springs, and I didn't know it was published with these pages, so that's cool. And books are so expensive now, because why was this $30? So yeah, this has to do with wolves. There's like humans and wolves have been like attacking the humans. And the humans they've been fighting each other, I guess, for years. And I'm sure there's gonna come up something about this war, fight, tension that we didn't know before. I'm really hyped about this book. I'm really excited. I'm enjoying it so far, even though I'm already 50 pages in. So I really hope that these feelings continue. It's been so long that I literally moved to a different apartment. That apartment that was in all of my previous videos is now an old apartment, and I am in a new one. I just moved like a few days ago, and there was a lot going on, so I wasn't really reading. I am about a decent chunk of the way through The Wolf King. Also, my new apartment is right on a like main street, so if you hear a lot of car noise, that's why. I definitely need to figure out a way that the outside noise doesn't really affect videos, because there is like always a white noise kind of going on with all the cars, which I don't personally mind, but I know in videos it's gonna show up. Like, you can probably hear stuff right now. But yeah, if you want an apartment tour, let me know. I'll do it in a future video. But as far as The Wolf King, I am about 200 and something pages in, so I think just about 40% of the way through the book. The book is about 500 pages, and I feel like so far I am enjoying it. Like, it's fun, it's really fast paced, the writing is really easy. I think I've mentioned that before, so it's just really, really easy to read and get into. But the other thing is that I feel like it's just not, I don't know, like, it's not super unique to me. Like, I feel like it's a very, very standard fantasy romance, and I feel like that issue is still happening, where fantasy romance books are just all kind of feeling the same. We have 2 main male love interests. We have one that is kind of a little bit nicer and the protective one, and then we have another one who's gonna be, I think, the other love interest, and he is super like right now he's a little bit mean, he's dark, he's broody, and we kind of just don't know much about him right now. To me though, it feels like it's very obvious that he's gonna be the actual love interest, though I've heard that this book does a better job at having a love triangle where there's not one obvious answer. I still feel like, to me, that dark broody guy Blake is the obvious choice, just because that's how usually fantasy romance books go. It's like the dark broody one that usually ends up being the love interest. So yeah, that is all I have to say for now. This is a pretty small update, literally just to say that I moved and that I am still going through the Wolf King. I'm trying to finish it soon, like this week sometime, because it's been a while. Like, it's been a long time since I've been reading it, and I barely read anything in February. I think I only read like maybe 2 books, which is kind of bad. So I need to get my reading back into order now that everything's kind of settled with me moving in. I've unpacked and everything. I feel like I finally have time to actually like sit down and read, because for the past like week I was just too busy doing that. But the one thing that I really love about this place is that there's better lighting. Like, you can see there's just so much better natural light, not just in this room but like throughout the apartment. My desk is now in front of a window, which it never was. My bedroom has good windows, and I'm on a higher floor than before, so just like good lighting all around, which I'm excited about. I'll keep you updated on the Wolf King as I continue. Hopefully it gets better. I'm sure like the ending is where the good stuff is gonna happen, like it always does, because endings are where like the cliffhangers happen, plot reveals and plot twists and everything. So that is definitely what's gonna happen. But right now, like, even though I'm enjoying it, it is feeling a little bit like the same as a lot of other fantasy romance books that I've read. And I know it's not the book's fault, because it's just a thing about the genre is just getting really saturated right now, especially. So I just hope that it can like kind of differentiate itself. But yeah, I'm still enjoying it though, so we'll see how it ends up going. It has been a few days, but I have officially finished The Wolf King by Lauren Paul Freeman, and I ended up giving this a 3 stars. This book is kind of hard for me to talk about just because I feel like I don't have anything like super out there to say. I feel like a 3 star is really hard to talk about sometimes, because it's not like the worst book in the world, but it's also not the most amazing. Like, the feelings I have about this book are very middle of the road, and there's nothing that truly I absolutely despised or even like truly loved. So yeah, I don't really know how to talk about this book, but that is again my biggest gripe with this book, is that I wasn't really invested for some reason. I didn't really feel like I was invested in the relationship. I honestly didn't really like Callum as a love interest for some reason. I just couldn't really buy their love story. It was a little bit insta-lovey / insta-lusty, and I tend to like a little bit of a slow burn, which is why I am really rooting for our main character and the other male love interest that is not even a love interest at this point, but is like kind of slowly getting introduced into that realm. And he's like dark and broody, and although I know I talked about before how like the dark and broody one is always the love interest, that is the one that will always get me every time. So I feel like they have like the tension of not really liking each other right now as much, and I think I prefer that a lot more to just the insta lust and love that kind of came with Callum. So I'm sure we're gonna get a lot more of him in the second book. The writing, as I said before, was really fast paced. It's really easy to get into, and I felt like I was just flying through the story whenever I was reading it. It did help that when I started reading the Kindle version after a while, but in the physical book, the text is really big, so just really fast to get through. I think I will continue on with the sequel, although the ending wasn't super like cliffhangery to me. Like, I wasn't at the edge of my seat honestly with the ending. I'm still kind of intrigued with the next book, specifically because I want to see Blake and what's our main character's name? Aurora and Blake's like relationship progression, and I want to see how that blooms and develops. Honestly, so I think I might continue just for that, but it's not a book that I'm like dying to pick up next. Yeah, sometimes it felt a little bit cringy to me. I don't know, I just didn't fall in love with this book the way that everyone else has been. I saw nothing, like I said, nothing but 5 stars for this book. Everyone was loving it, and said it was really entertaining and really fast paced, and and I'm so sad that I just didn't get that. I'm such a hater, honestly, these days, but yeah, I really wanted to love this more than I did. But yeah, I think that is going to be the end of this video. I usually wanted to keep reading vlogs up to 3 books, but I think I'm going to bring it down to 2 this year because it makes it faster for me to put out videos, because I'm a slower reader, so it takes me forever to read 3 books, honestly, even though it has been like a month since I posted. Oops. But yeah, that is it for this 5-star predictions video. One book, Blood Over Brighthaven, I really enjoyed. I'm so glad I read that book, and I am really excited to read other books from that author. And then The Wolf King was just a middle of the road book. I was really hoping to love it, and I am still kind of interested in picking up the sequel, but this one just didn't hit for me at this point. I have a lot more books on my shelf that I think I would give 5 stars, like some of the other books that I talked about in the beginning as potential reads, like The Will of the Many. I've heard nothing but amazing things about that as well. And then The Poppy War is also on my priority list to read, because I really want to read that before I go to BookCon in April, because the author is coming, and I would like to have read at least 1 book before I see her, because I know she's really popular and I've heard a lot about her books, especially her fantasy ones. But yeah, that is it for this video. Let me know down below if you read any of these books, or what was your most recent 5 stars. I'm always looking for more amazing book recs. Make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.